Chapter 7. Truth and Discipline Will Set You Free. It is a shame for a man to grow old without seeing the beauty and strength of which his body is capable. Socrates. You and I inside Plato's allegory of the cave. Do you want to be good, or do you want to be great? But are you even good at what you do? Let's assume that you are not. Where or when do you begin a journey to greatness? You start when you admit you're insufficient and need to change to improve. It may seem obvious and like common sense, but countless are blinded by their pride, which turns into arrogance. Arrogance prevents us from reaching our full potential because why would we want to improve if we believe we are already the best? Your wisdom begins when you own up to ignorance. Ignorance is bliss, but everything comes at a price. Especially self-consciousness. Once you know, you cannot keep something unknown. Knowledge and wisdom cannot be earned without struggle, experience, or suffering. To know leads to dread, sadness, and anxiety in the hearts of individuals. Decide what you want to know, and earn your wisdom. Ancient Greeks emphasized that philosophy is not just an abstract exercise, but a skill to be learned and practiced by everyone to teach us how to live and die. How? By asking life's most significant questions. What is reality, knowledge, and the meaning of life? For over 2,400 years, Plato's allegory of the cave is a story that can be interpreted to reveal a hidden meaning, typically a moral or political one. Plato compares the educated individual versus the uneducated, ignorant one. In this story, Plato describes a group of people who have lived chained to the cave wall all their lives, facing a blank wall. There is no natural light from the sun inside the cave. It is dark. The people watch shadows projected on the wall from objects passing in front of a fire behind them. They later name these shadows. The people watch shadows projected on the wall from objects passing in front of a fire behind them and give names to these shadows. The prisoners in chains are captivated by the shadows projected onto the wall. They believe they are real because it is all they have understood their entire lives. But they never realize that there are mere phantoms. The prisoners take pride in their wisdom. By some miracle, one of the prisoners escapes from the dark cave into the open air. He is blinded by the sun's light, which hurts him because he has never used his eyes. His eyes adjust to the proper forms of the illuminated objects. He encounters the actual forms of the things he knows as shadows. As Plato explains, previously he had been looking merely at phantoms. Now he is nearer to the true nature of being. With an overwhelming absorption of beauty, fascinated by the truth he has discovered, he returns to the cave to help his imprisoned friends escape the cave who are ignorant. Since he had been accustomed to the sun, he stumbled back into darkness. After explaining the proper form of life, the sun, and what it is true, his unimpressed companions ridicule him, become angry, and later plot to kill him. With love he went under, but from the blind laughs of ice and violence he received. Analysis of Plato's allegory of the cave. The story of the cave is an allegory of the life of all enlightened people. The cave dwellers are us before philosophy, the sun's outlasting symbol of the light of reason. All tellers of truth should expect alienation upon their return as the philosopher. To share golden, timeless knowledge can be perceived as a threat to those who wish to remain in a life of ignorance and arrogance. People are comfortable in ignorance and hostile towards those who claim to know the sun. In my experience, I devoted years of my time to thinking, and when I first attempted to share my knowledge with those around me, I got spat in my face. Friends did not wish to hang out with me because I made them question their existence. To descend, you have to ascend first. You are going from a place of light, knowledge, to a place of darkness, ignorance, to give the gift of knowledge, fire. It is like the myth of Prometheus in a way. Gaining too much wisdom and implementing it will snowball effect on success. It will make you feel godlike when you see those around you know nothing of what you know. However, with these godlike feelings comes loneliness and isolation from others, because you will see you have no equals. You will revert to wanting to be human again. By doing so, you will want to help others in becoming great as you did. Why? Because it is worth teaching others, and it's rewarding. Being useful like an empty cup is meaningful and fulfilling. Spreading wisdom gives you meaning. When the prisoners resist being free, it symbolizes those people who are imprisoned and so attached to their beliefs, religious, political, cultural. Individuals bound by religious convictions often resist relinquishing outdated values that have become ineffective. They dismiss any other religions that do not align with their own. We identify something when we name it and define its nature. By naming, we make the world intelligible to ourselves. Naming is the activity of reason, allowing us to comprehend our world and create order out of chaos. Prisoners name the things before them because they desire understanding. It is a natural impulse. The problem is that the prisoners are naming the shadows of objects, not the actual objects, because they can only see the shadow and not the true object. They understand a copy of a copy, but misnaming things is ignorance. In our society, the opinion makers can be the government because they make laws that discourage and encourage certain behaviors and attitudes. The opinion makers can also be teachers, parents, religious leaders, and the media. These groups and institutions determine the shadows we see, meaning they shape our view of our world. Everyone lives or has lived in the shadows. Many things that excite us, like natural, unnecessary pleasures like sex, or unnatural, unnecessary pleasures like power, fame, and money, are bound to leave us empty when we realize how unreal they are. Phantoms, or what we believe is real, is due to the conditioning of our family, culture, religion, society, schools, etc. These institutions claim that everything to be known is already known and therefore is genuine knowledge, which is arrogant. However, much of what we know is subjective knowledge. Our ancestors were as clueless as we are to the big questions of us. However, you must always remain grateful for the positive frameworks to life they left us. To be reasonable, no one initially chooses the cave. the place of utter ignorance. You're thrown into a specific place, time, environment, family, or culture in which you are raised, which you did not choose. However, you are allowed to become what you want to become. You are what you choose, not what happens to you. So, what is one of the best ways to teach someone philosophy and aid them in thinking critically? You use the Socratic method. In simple terms, you attempt to find common ground in a topic and search for common truths, dissecting and eliminating contradictions by letting your interlocutor come to the conclusions themselves. The Socratic method is a collaborative form of argumentative dialogue that entails asking and answering questions to encourage critical thinking and reveal underlying ideas and presuppositions. This method aims to extract implied definitions in participants' beliefs or enhance their understanding. It involves hypothesis elimination, gradually identifying and discarding contradictory hypotheses to find better ones. By seeking general truths that influence beliefs, the Socratic method meticulously examines consistency with other beliefs. This approach employs a series of logically and factually testing questions to help individuals or groups explore their beliefs, define terms, and identify common characteristics across various instances. The common goal is to find truth, not to win the argument or debate. Silence is worse. All truths that are kept silent become poisonous. Friedrich Nietzsche. How can you be confident in what you know? Will you rebel after you claim to see the sun? Will you sacrifice comfort for truth? How do you know you're not enslaved by a system that makes you love our servitude so you never dream of a revolution? Would you give up all that is dear to you for truth? Would you trade peace for truth? Passive observers are uneducated people who haven't fought against everything they think they know. A prisoner needs to convert to escape the cave. You need to turn around the soul, mind, body, heart, spirit, passions, desires, and appetite to escape the cave. It's not that people are stupid, and that's why they believe the wrong ideas. People choose to be prisoners because they don't want to change their views and get educated. You must get comfortable with asking questions that make you uncomfortable to find the truth. People are looking at the wrong things and need to desire with their whole body to get educated. People conform to what is in the cave, conform to routine, and decide not to change because they are comfortable. This will sometimes be painful for you. The truth hurts. And it hurts to find out that your whole life has been a lie. A teacher will always emphasize the importance of education. They can teach you and guide you along the process of leading you somewhere, but ultimately no one can be led to where they don't desire to go. It doesn't matter how great your professors are. You won't get it if you don't desire an education. External versus internal control. The beginning of wisdom relies on admitting you're not in control of the many things that will happen to you. You're not a puppet, but you are merely a player playing chess. You can move the pieces, but you do not get to play chess. It's the strands of fate that wove our destinies together. Pride can be an obstacle to self-improvement for many. Pride comes before a fall. What do you know of what you think you know? Nothing, because you're a deterministic puppet, but you don't have to be. Actions speak louder than words. Everything comes at a cost. Maybe your fall will last decades of blind pride. Maybe your blind pride is your tragedy. But perhaps if you choose to open your eyes in time, you'll save yourself. What do you do if your life isn't in order? You pay attention. That isn't the same as thinking. It's a different process. Thinking is like the imposition of structure. Paying attention is something like watching for what you don't know, for what may prey on you. The pride and narcissism of my art got the best of me. My ego became inflated due to my achievements at a young age. I was humbled by the idea of thrownness, which can be described as the ambiguity of existence. We were put in a random place in space and time. We did not get to choose our family, economic status, culture, etc. through life. We believe we have free will and that we can control what comes our way, knowing we will die. This is where the anxiety comes from. The anxiety forces an individual to live worshiping a master. We do not get the choice to not worship. We only have the illusion of choice. I was humbled. I realized that I was not making a significant impact on a large number of people because I was born at the wrong time. My talents were mute in the world of today. I asked, what's the point of composing music from the heart? Why do I want to share my music with deaf people? I realized that my gifts had become my prison. I had become my prisoner. But in Orwell's language, pure doublethink was my meaning. Slavery to my beautiful gifts was my meaning in life and therefore my salvation. The beginning of wisdom for me began with claiming ignorance and owning up to my blind pride. I could think for myself, knowing myself and being perfectly capable of immense feats of imagination, dream, and fantasy. What would happen if you consulted yourself about the best possible outcome for you? You might get an answer. And I found the answers. I needed to do something meaningful and productive with my talents and creativity. Conscientious people are unhappy when unproductive. They feel terrible if they're just sitting around not doing anything because it feels like time is wasted. Therefore, life is wasted. It is not that I found life meaningless, but that I couldn't find meaning in my suffering. We are separated between God and animals. As the ancient Greeks believed that we share our impulses, drives, and instincts with animals, like the lust for sex, food, shelter, and survival. Still, they also believed we share reason, wisdom, and knowledge with the gods. We must recognize our animalistic instincts but not let them control us. This may seem impossible for people. Am I exaggerating? No. For example, countless people make the New Year's resolution to join their local gym, change their diet, and lose weight. But how long does it last? At most a month, then they begin making excuses why it's impossible for them to reach their goals when the reality is that they refuse to discipline or educate themselves because they expect everything to come quickly. Discipline takes root in small everyday tasks, gradually shaping our character. By cultivating the habit of rising early at a set time and crafting a comprehensive to-do list for the day, you not only fulfill the initial task, fostering a sense of pride and motivation, but also pave the way for tackling subsequent tasks with vigor. This deliberate practice establishes a positive momentum, culminating in the successful completion of multiple tasks by day's end. Making your bed and cleaning your home, for example, not only symbolize attention to detail, but also reinforces the profound idea that mastery of these seemingly trivial aspects lays the groundwork for triumph in more significant undertakings. Most people just do not understand that greatness is not achieved without sweat and expect everything to be handed to them. People expect their inner calling or life mission to appear out of nowhere. They place responsibility for their burdens on others, many on their romantic partners, falsely believing that a marital partner will satisfy all their needs. Still, once they have what they think they want, they realize that the emptiness in their hearts remains. Buying security. Men aim at perfection, and women aim at wholeness. This is an area where men should learn from women, because how can you perfect something if it is not whole yet? Make it whole, then focus on perfecting it. Most men I have encountered in my life are not whole and not excellent because they contribute half of themselves to a woman. They attempt to get blood from stone in the same way they attempt to get spirituality from their partners. However, women are not off the hook. In my experience working at a trauma hospital, I witnessed how female medical professionals acted out the idea that they aim at wholeness. Not only did I overhear the truths of their insecurities, but they confessed to me because I was doing personal training as a side job. Most women had the same insecurities. I may not be able to grow my boobs, but I want to grow my ass. I want to lose weight to shrink my waist. Can you help me with that through weightlifting? Yes, I can, but are you willing to work for it? At first they said yes, but they realized it takes a lot of discipline, work, time, and perseverance to reach wholeness. Then suddenly, it's back to being black and white. I can't reach my goals because, insert excuse of choice. But the cherry on top is this. Female medical professionals at a trauma hospital are tough women who don't take prisoners. Their jobs are complex, which makes them grow the thick skin you need to keep you sane there. They earn sufficient income to be self-sufficient, eliminating the need for a man to provide for them, which I 100% agree with. Be your own sugar daddy. More power to them. However, this also means they can afford to pay to fix their insecurities. While I respect a lot of them for their skills, I couldn't respect the female medical professionals who would make themselves look like blow-up dolls for the sake of feeling whole and to cover their insecurities. Exaggerated boob jobs and gluteal augmentations looked like two balloons under their skin. What was supposed to look beautiful or sexy looked rather disgusting. So, what's my point? My point is that these women could have achieved their ideal image of the female body through hard work, discipline, diet, and weight training, but they chose the shortcut of getting it done surgically, resulting in a disgusting outcome. As for boob jobs, chyloplasty, and things you are not able to change through weightlifting and diet, you can embrace the philosophy that desire is the root of suffering, accept what you have, make the most of it, and find peace within yourself. However, I am not against cosmetic surgery. I understand that there are parts of our body that are impossible to change naturally, but if you're going to get cosmetic surgery, make sure that it looks natural and don't overdo it. We can all agree that what looks natural is considered beautiful or ideal, but to look like an oversized bodybuilder who is on steroids, obese, or a woman who looks like a blow-up doll made of plastic is not beautiful at all. Discipline through exercise and a healthy diet will get you the best results and form your character to help you reach your ideal image. A disciplined person will help you by telling you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. Don't confuse being an asshole with being disciplined and strict. Be strict and disciplined to yourself and tolerant towards others. You want the best for the people you love, so you give them constructive criticism. You see their flaws and potential in them if they correct them. Discipline equals freedom. The following section on discipline are the ideas of John Gretton Jocko Willink, an American author, podcaster, and retired United States Navy officer who served in the Navy SEALs and is a former member of SEAL Team 3. Jocko Willink teaches us 3 critical success principles: discipline equals freedom, staying humble, and extreme ownership. You do not need to be a famous athlete or be in the military to learn the discipline to properly order your life. Excuses are for the weak. If you now have access to the tools that make a strong character, then why aren't you implementing them in your life? Navigating life involves recognizing that there are no shortcuts to genuine success, and easy roads often lead to dead ends. The most profound positive transformations arise from overcoming significant challenges. Success on the hard road is attainable for anyone willing to embrace discipline. Contrary to the misconception of discipline as a confining force, it is in fact an equation that paves the way to freedom. Discipline is the conduit to daily execution, rendering excuses ineffective. Unlike motivation, which is fleeting and emotional, discipline is a reliable force one can count on during challenging times. Integrating discipline into daily life invariably enhances overall well-being. The second key principle emphasizes the importance of humility. Pursuing success may require actions that challenge and bruise one's ego. Engaging in tasks that may seem beneath you is a testament to your commitment. Demonstrating care and dedication in minor assignments builds trust and opens doors to greater responsibilities. Balancing confidence with humility is crucial. While belief in one's capabilities is essential, it should not transform into arrogance. Keeping ego in check ensures a healthy balance between self-assurance and humility. The third key principle revolves around the concept of extreme ownership. Taking complete responsibility for one's actions and areas of control is the hallmark of effective leadership. Instead of resorting to complaints and blame, strong individuals embrace ownership. Life may not always be fair, but accepting responsibility and adopting a mindset of hard work, sacrifice, discipline, humility, and ownership is the path to true freedom. In this journey, one becomes the leader of their life, transcending the limitations imposed by a cynical attitude and fostering a mindset focused on growth and resilience. Self-deception and discipline. Lying is like a hydra. You cut one of its heads, and two heads will take its place. Similarly, when we deceive both others and ourselves, the deception compounds until we lose sight of our true selves, uncertain of what remains genuine and what merely reflects the expectations of others. Liars are cowards who refuse to accept the responsibility of truth. Liars are foolish because lying is essentially a childish game, knowing that eventually they will get caught. Why do they lie? It's because they're arrogant and narcissistic, believing they can manipulate the very fabric of reality and escape being caught. If you lie to yourself, you are your own deceiver. Self-deception deadens the human soul, individuality, and potential. Everything is fine. I love how I am in my life. No, you are not okay. You don't even know what is good for you. There are goals you want to achieve that take discipline, hard work, and time, but you choose to deceive yourself to feel comfort because ignorance is bliss. It is not bliss. Ignorance will take its vengeance in the form of a midlife, existential, or identity crisis. You pick your poison, but you don't get not to pick a poison. You're not okay, and that's okay. Many of us are not, but to change something, you need to accept the problem exists. The truth will set you free. If you're true to yourself, then lies will not accumulate to destroy your life. If you admit that a change in your life needs to be made instead of lying to yourself, you will form healthy habits. Proper healthy habits will change your character to become honest, thereby changing your destiny. Your character is what determines your destiny. Your value as a person and partner increases as you work on yourself by cultivating new skills. Communicating honestly with your family, partner, and coworkers redeems you. Truth leads to positive consequences, and people will trust you with responsibility. Effective communication leads to a playful or civil debate about disagreements. A fallacy-free debate leads two persons to come closer to the truth. Truth leads to a healthy relationship. It releases tension. You can escape depression and anxiety if you live a virtuous and moral life. People are complex creatures, full of contradictions. We act like we have free will but contradict ourselves by speaking like we can't make our own choices. However, the truth is somewhere in the middle. While there are social, cultural, environmental, and natural factors that we may be unable to change, we have enough freedom to choose how to react in our environments. We can't control the external that much. We only influence it, but we have control over internal factors. You can choose what to become, not what happened to you. This is how I like to think of soft determinism. We don't have complete free will and there's no hard determinism. It's somewhere in the middle. You can't control a sneeze, but you can control where you sneeze. Life is a game you're forced to play. Clinician Dr. Jordan Peterson teaches us when you decide to play a game, you agree to follow its rules and be accountable. This fits with how people think and act. Playing a game involves cooperation, competition, and sticking to the rules. While you can set some of the game's rules, you can't avoid being in a game. You must play by the rules. So it's smart to choose a game with rules you're okay with. You shape your life by selecting the roles you take on, such as your career, the field you choose to master, and decisions like getting married or having children. This is how you may be avoiding the path of mastery. If you're sneaky, to prevent something hard, you will replace it with something hard, but not quite as hard as mastery. In this way, you can justify not doing what you're supposed to be doing because you're doing something useful if you give in to the temptation. After all, it wins, gets a little dopamine kick, and grows stronger. This means you're rewarded for not doing something as productive as the prior activity. Anything you let win in an internal argument grows. Anything you let be defeated shrinks. Don't practice what you don't want to become. This is how habits are formed. Mastery. Why do your ambitions and goals have to come quickly and easily? Suffering is what gives something value. If you take the value of something, then it becomes worthless. We value scarcity and challenging things to obtain because they must be earned through suffering. If everyone had the most valuable things, then we would no longer see objects and virtues of high value. Something of value is linked to difficulty. If you do something difficult, people will see it. You will have value as a person because you did something difficult others couldn't do. This will earn you respect and admiration. If you're the type of person that asks, "How do you obtain something valuable quick and easy?" proves that your mental state of gratification is destroyed and spoiled. You're thinking like a child who wants everything quickly, at arm's reach and spoon-fed. Quit being a little bitch and grow up. Do you want the valuable things in life? Then earn them. Motivation comes and goes, but discipline will make you do things you need to, whether you want to or not. When all motivation has failed, discipline will make you prevail. If you want to be free, then you must be a slave first. It's logical. You don't become a fully developed adult with your individuality straight from your childhood. You go from child to a state of discipline, which is self-imposed slavery. You choose a practice, a field, something that sparks your interest, and discipline yourself to become something specific, a master in your art. I understood myself at the deepest level through introspection, isolation, and interaction with my art. My art helped me fill the spirituality in my life and made me whole by granting me my individuality and unlocking the deepest reaches of my mind. It gave me the wisdom I could only gather from myself and no one else. Despite the factors that make us different, such as personalities, cultures, occupations, etc., We all share the same goal, to strive for a meaningful life. But if we all share the same goal, why do so many of us fail at it? Factors influencing us to conform kill our individuality, like culture, societal norms, and family values, harm our passions and goals to live a meaningful life through self-creation. At a young age, we are taught that conforming and listening to authority, following instructions, and obedience and unquestioned submission to authority are considered virtues, which is bullshit given to us by higher authorities to turn us into sheep. We learn to become dependent rather than independent. We are not become independent thinkers when we are always told what to do. Individual forces like passion, such as lust, greed, and gluttony, also enslave us, preventing us from reaching a fulfilling life. Are you really free when your passions control you? Think about the average person going through life, trying to show their worth. In their youth, there's this feeling that they have something special to offer. However, things don't always go as planned. Life becomes a series of unexpected events like career, marriage, and family happening without much control. Instead of shaping the story of their importance, they end up following a script written by society. However, if we realize that we can still change our empty lives through a path we genuinely value, our goals can be reached. A journey and aim at mastery in your chosen field has the power to quell our anxiety and euthanize our depression. Mastery involves possessing both knowledge and skills, enabling a profound understanding and effective control over a particular subject, activity, or concept. Deciding on a career, art, or lifestyle becomes difficult if there's no inner calling. Every path in life has its challenges. It's the inner drive, whether it's joy or love, that helps us overcome obstacles, carve a path, and move beyond the constrained routes. For many, constrained routes lead difficult and unhappy lives. Let's be realistic. The average person does not care about the path of mastery because they believe innate talent and natural capabilities are essential to reach mastery. This is not true. A lack of education and tools prevents us from beginning. In his book Peak, Anders Ericsson, the leading figure in studying the gifted, suggested many people strongly believe that having natural talent is a big factor in being good at something. This idea suggests that some people are born with special abilities that make it easier for them to excel in sports, music, chess, writing, math, or anything else. Even though they still need some practice, it's thought that they require less effort than those without as much talent and can achieve much greater success in the end. Innate abilities do exist, but the amount of practice time an individual engages in is more critical. Innate talent is only apparent in the initial stages of learning a skill, allowing them to become professionals faster. However, innate talent plays little to no role in how much experts have climbed. The critical factor that makes you a master is the time engaged in deliberate practice. Deliberate practice is much different from regular practice. Research shows that when people learn a skill as a hobby, they hit a plateau because they reach a comfort zone and stop improving. In contrast, deliberate practice is designed to push your limits and capabilities. How? By isolating your weaknesses and focusing on improving them to get out of the plateau. Steps are repetition, increasingly tricky standards, and access to continuous feedback. The upper limit of practice is 4 to 5 hours a day with 90-minute intervals. You must rest in those 90 minutes. Thus, it is highly demanding to do for an extended period. Deliberate practice is not fun for sure because it's frustrating and mentally demanding and, to be honest, boring because of the focus and time required to reach greatness. You have to make rules and deadlines for yourself. A rule describes a pattern of behavior. Patterned behaviors will predict your success. But why would someone choose the path of mastery if it's so difficult? Because of prolonged, lasting feelings of satisfaction and pleasure. If you believe that a good life is obtained through pleasure, then this is how to obtain it through mastery. There are two possible ways to attain satisfaction: passive by nature and active. Passive is immediate gratification. Examples include drinking, eating junk food, binge-watching TV, or other forms of entertainment. The first way, passive gratification, requires no effort and minimal frustration. Thus, the satisfaction it gives flees quickly and is damaging because it removes discomfort. The second way, the active way, has frustration to reach satisfaction and requires hard work, obstacles, and resistance to overcome. In deliberate practice, we are confronted with our limitations, leading to frustration. Still, when these obstacles are overcome, we are rewarded with the feeling that our powers are increasing and mastery is being approached. This is the pleasure of overcoming. Thus, active satisfaction is more rewarding and longer lasting than passive gratification. Choosing mastery as a life path gave me a sense of control over my life. My long-term goals were devoting myself to my paintings, music, and making my art. I began learning guitar at the age of 14. Even though I always wanted to be a singer, I knew it wasn't possible because my voice was too high-pitched, and I didn't have the talent or practice to call myself a singer, so I stuck with the guitar till college. My father conditioned me to love heavy metal music and classic rock. He would play classic rock records to my brother and me when we were children, so it was the only music that existed for us. My brother taught me the basics of playing guitar since my parents could not afford a guitar teacher. It was simply not an option for us. I started with my brother's Squier Fender Stratocaster, but after 2 years of practice, I knew the guitar limited me. A painter is only as good as his tools are. So, at age 15, I busted my ass selling 25-cent candy at my high school till I made $250. I bought an awesome black Epiphone G310 that was the equivalent of a second-hand Gibson SG, a $1,000 guitar back then. I played it till I could shred Angus Young and Randy Rhoads guitar solos. I loved that guitar. Every time I broke a guitar string, I would ride my BMX bike 5 miles to the closest guitar store because I was persistent in my pursuit of greatness. Neither poverty nor my unsupportive parents were going to stop me. I taught myself to play guitar through YouTube videos but knew nothing about music theory. I did not know what tempo, a rest, or a bar was until I played with a drummer friend. That was when I discovered that I would play songs too fast and off-tempo. Through criticism, I learned to pick up my mistakes and improve. I would come home after school, finish my homework in 2 to 3 hours, and practice guitar for the remaining 3 to 4 hours of free time. The sacrifices of adolescent William paid off. At the age of 18, I recorded an album that honestly sucked, but what was important was the idea. From age 18 to 20, I built my music home studio piece by piece while learning music engineering. The idea was later re-recorded at the age of 20 in 2018 and became the album now known as Symphony of My Apocalypse by Deceiver of the Blind. By 2021, I released my third music album, Heaven's Vengeance Boils in My Heart Part 2. After writing the song To Kill a God, I came to believe that I reached my prime at 22 years of age. I think that entire album as a whole concept put together is my magnum opus. Heaven's Vengeance Boils in My Heart Part 2 made it clear that I had become a master in my chosen field. It has shaped my destiny and is the most meaningful thing I have done. It may not be meaningful to others, but for me, It is all I need to continue the struggle of life. Choose wisely what you want to dedicate your limited time and efforts to. You could well be the student who goes through 4 years of college only to get rejected in your field, or to find out that the chosen field is not a fit for your personality. How did I manage to work 20-32 hours per week while being a college student, working on my music and artwork for 5 years without stopping? You make time for your goals. I had many strategies to make the most of my time. If I'd paid attention during the class lecture and memorized the PowerPoint, then I didn't have to go home and study for 2 hours for one class. Multiply that by 5 classes, then I saved myself 10 hours per week of study time on average. If I listened to the lecture and did my homework while in the lecture, then I would kill 2 birds with 1 stone: homework and study time. If I felt confident I would get an A in a class, I would show up for lectures, put my earphones on, and check my music mixes. Did my professors notice? No, because my long hair would cover my ears so that they wouldn't see my earphones. As long as I nodded while they were speaking, they believed I was listening to the lecture. When it came to writing things down in my notebook, from the professor's point of view, it looked like I was writing down lecture notes, but in reality, there were lyric ideas or music mix fix reminders I was jotting down. Serene have the waves become, with blood upon their faces. They look up to a red sky mirroring a Sistine Chapel of Christianity's butchery. Fallen beasts with bloody bodies of men consumes the skies like a tide of a Red Sea, as the fields have been filled with a landscape so blood-red. Satan unbound, warriors and knights charge ahead with pride. The Alpha Knight of all, like an angel, he flies upon Lucifer's wings. The 6 wings of 666 sins are pierced and forever fallen. War in the 9 realms of hell by deceiver of the blind. Hell yeah, man, this sounds badass. Let me write it down. By doing this for my 5 years in college, I saved a lot of time I did not have. Working at a warehouse also had its perks. I was blessed with awesome bosses who supported my education by being flexible with my schedule, and as long as I finished my work, I was allowed to work on my homework through Google Drive. This level of productivity was achieved with the 80-20th rule. The productivity principle, 80-20th rule. But the true principle I used to be the most productive was the Pareto principle, or the 80-20th principle. This principle states that in many cases around 80% of results come from just 20% of efforts. In simpler terms, a small part of your actions can have a big impact. Understanding this is crucial because it helps you figure out which tasks to focus on for the most significant results. For example, if I dedicated the same amount of time to all my top 10 friends, but the most valuable time comes from 2, then the other 8 friends were a waste of time because they simply wanted me for utility or pleasure, but they truly didn't care about me, which freed time for school, gym, and music. Cut your workload by 80% because 20% gives you the results. In short, the majority of results come from the minority of causes, and the minority of results come from the majority of causes. We all have the same amount of time in a day, but most don't use the time efficiently. There's a difference between being busy and productive. When you apply this principle correctly, you get more stuff done by doing less. For example, 20% of a book will give us 80% of the information. That means that 80% of a book will give us only 20% of its value. Let's assume it takes 10 hours to finish a book 100%, but 2 hours of reading will give us 80% of its valuable information. The rest of the 8 hours of reading, 20% of information not needed, is the icing on the cake of the book. In college, exams never contain 100% of the content, or else it would be impossible to read the whole textbook. The exams are composed of 20% of the most valuable information the teacher gave you. More than likely it was PowerPoints and study guide information. The other 80% would be the textbook. You can even apply this to your friendships. 20% of friends give you 80% of the joy you get from social interactions. The other so-called friends fall under the categories of coworkers, acquaintances, or friends used for utility or pleasure, giving 20% of fulfillment. You don't need to burn your bridges, but you don't need to spend an equal amount of time with everyone. It is better to have quality friends than to have a large quantity of friends. The trick is to identify what produces the greatest outcome to influence the output positively. Ask and think about what you should double down on and what things you should eliminate. Why would you go to the gym for 2 hours for 6 days a week doing BS exercises when 1 hour per day for 4 days a week doing the correct exercises will suffice for optimal results? If you educate yourself on how to be efficient in whatever you want to do, then you will have free time to do more activities and spend time with friends. Work smarter, not harder. 20% of your actions give you 80% of the results. I show up for 1 hour of lecture to learn most of all the content that will determine most of the grade on my test. The rest was busy work like homework or projects. But if you study that precious 20% of the material of the book, then it will give you the majority of your grade. Apply this principle to your long-term and short-term goals. Why would you work a minimum wage job to pay off a $30,000 car in 5 years when you can get a $5,000 education in a trade that will give you those $30,000 in less than 2 years? You don't think this can happen? Educate yourself and see what options are provided for you. My local community college offers register nurse and radiology programs for $5,000 to $7,000. After 2 to 3 years of studying, you're off to make a lot of money for the rest of your life. You see how 2 to 3 years of studying can change your lifetime? The more money you earn, the less you're allowed to work. As long as your family's needs are met and saving up money, why work more? For luxuries? To buy shit you don't need? Or people care about you own? Your goals will influence your other goals for success. Think of 5 goals you may have in the next 5 years. Out of those 5 goals, which one will have the biggest impact on your life with success? Find that goal, whether it is to own your car to get you from point A to B, pay off debt, or get an education to leave a job you hate. Make this goal your priority for your week, month, or year. Every step closer to the goal counts. A lot of small changes in your life will have one big change. Find habits and tasks that work for you that make you most productive. For me, it was rewarding myself with musical tools, or even my sport car after I earned my associate's degree. I rewarded myself with pleasure or dopamine for achieving something meaningful to me. For 21-year-old William, those 5 goals included graduating college, finishing my 3rd music album, traveling to Italy and U.S. states, driving a fun sport car, and earning my dream physique. I realized if I focused on staying in school while working, I could buy my car because I was granted financial aid for having good grades. I could travel the states with the car if I bought it. And if I stayed in school, I would be able to work on my music during lectures and at work. Flash forward 3 years later, and I achieved a lot of those goals simply because I stayed in school. If life gives you lemons, you make lemonade. Free money? Sure, sign me up. You see how the 80-20th principle was applied. By focusing on one goal, I was able to meet a total of 4, because the dream physique honestly came after college. To this day, I still apply the 80/20 principle in my life. How do you think I'm writing this book by myself? I began when I was a transporter at a hospital. There was so much downtime I didn't know what to do, so I started gathering sources that created me. By acquiring all the top sources that created me, and by disregarding everything that was not useful in my education, I was able to be productive and effective in writing this book. I use whatever is pragmatic in my personal life. If it doesn't get me closer to my goals, then why bother paying attention to it? But it begins by disciplining yourself to conquer yourself, by exposing yourself to truths you don't want to hear but you need to hear. Truth and discipline will set you free. For those who wish to be artists or to better themselves as artists, this next piece of advice will be essential for your growth. Habits of the Great Artist. I found this very insightful lecture online on the habits of effective artists by video creator Andrew Price. I just needed to include it in this book. I was already practicing most of the wisdom he gave by the time I had released my third music album. Everything else I learned from him was implemented immediately. It's amazing how much pragmatic wisdom you can find on the internet that you won't find in schools anymore. The following are the habits of healthy, productive, great artist by Andrew Price, with supplemental information I added from my experiences. 1. Daily work. You need to work on the skills you're trying to master daily. It sounds like common sense, but common sense is not common practice. You always say to yourself, I'll have 1 hour of free time to catch up on this specific day. But that day never comes because you choose to be voluntarily lazy or make other plans to escape the difficulty of challenging yourself to learn a new skill. J.K. Rowling, author of the famous and incredibly successful Harry Potter book series, wrote her book over the span of 5 years while raising a child. She accomplished this out of necessity and by making time for her craft daily. In my personal experience, being a full-time student in college and working a part-time job was not an excuse for me not to add at least 10 minutes of guitar practice before I went to bed. No matter how tired I was, I came home from work or school exhausted, overwhelmed by the information absorbed throughout the day, but the necessity was that I needed to express myself. The need to create something of value through my efforts was what kept me on top of my daily habits and practice. Often, getting the snowball effect rolling is the most challenging part of the daily work. You solve this by agreeing to perform minimal work before the day ends. The mentality here is compound interests, which is much better than zero time spent at your craft and will add up over time. 2. Volume, not perfection. The quantity of work matters. It doesn't mean you do not care about the quality, but it means that you attempt to create new pieces of art, poetry, and music, trying new perspectives. For example, once you're fixated on making a sad song or poem, you close yourself in a box with musical keys, notes, or words that only relate to sadness. If you're only concentrating on a few sad pieces of art, then you're not exploring your vast potential. Volume and the variety of that work will make you exceptional at your craft. You need to learn how to use a variety of tools. You have to experience those tools. Trial and error. The more tools you have, the more potential you have to become great. An artist is only as good as his tools are. Being a perfectionist undermines your growth, preventing you from reaching the next lesson or epiphany. A research study suggested that the more compositions a composer writes, the more probable they will make a famous piece of music. Most of the learning comes from making the beginning of a piece of art, and a minority of the time is perfecting it. A piece of art is never perfected. It is just left alone. Beware of perfectionism. It is okay to finish something to the best of your ability right now and move forward, and it's far better than just not finishing it at all. You are also allowed to revisit the same piece of art you made and improve it with your new skills in the future. Regardless of what you view as perfection right now, what you're going to be able to produce in the future will be far better. Every time you finish a project, you gain new skills and insight. You become more capable of creating better and better work. You must give constraints to your perfectionism. Do not say, "I'm going to set out to make the best thing ever," as that is impossible. Instead say, "I will set out to make the best thing with my current tools, knowledge, and skills." Realistically, you could always put more time into a piece of art, but not making deadlines for yourself will make you procrastinate. However, the faster you embrace imperfections and work on learning new things, the more you will improve. 3. Steal. Pablo Picasso once said, "Good artists borrow, great artists steal. Everything is a copy of a copy." Don't be afraid to steal ideas. Our society has this illusion that great artists are born with their talents and are entirely original. This is incorrect because it is not how the human brain works. Our brains work with patterns and build upon the information and ideas we know. Our idols build upon the ideas of their idols, upon the ideas of their love. In the book Steal Like an Artist, author Austin Kleon outlines the differences between good and bad theft. There are different categories, each with two extremes when it comes to the differences in stealing art. Honoring versus degrading the artwork, studying versus skimming, stealing from many versus stealing from one, crediting the artist versus plagiarizing, transforming versus imitating, remixing versus ripping off. If you steal from many musicians, only a few talented musicians can recognize the ideas stolen if they know your songs. Still, most people will think you are original because you stole from many artists. But if you steal solely from one artist, then you're plagiarizing. If you're influenced by just one person, people might call you the next version of that person. However, if you borrow ideas from 100 different sources, everyone will see you as truly original. Work with both inspiration and reference with the work of others. Find the work that you truly love, which inspires you and reminds you why you got started in the first place. But remember that motivation comes and goes, but discipline ultimately makes you do things regardless of whether you want to do them. 4. Conscious learning. Practice does not always make perfect, specifically when you plateau. The human brain is wired to avoid pain. If you're careful, then it can become a source of procrastination. We have the false idea that the more time we put into a skill, by default, we will get better at it. However, this is flawed because it is conscious learning of new skills and applying them that make you better. You need to be conscious of your actions while engaging in your artwork. You need a goal in mind. Look back at your previous work, check if you're not improving over time. You need to watch tutorials. You will make more progress at looking for new skills and learning how to fix your mistakes through tutorials than by repeating the same mistake until you get it right. Practice alone does not make perfect. This saves you time and effort. You will become a master at your craft faster by doing this as well. 5. Rest. Resting is a reset for your brain. Your brain absorbs your artwork and can think clearly about fixing mistakes. Remove yourself from the work after working on it for a long time. You will find new perspectives and absorb other details because you were previously fixated on your current art. Leave the art alone for a few days or weeks. Don't even think about it. Detach yourself from it to improve by seeing it with fresh eyes. You will even find solutions to your problems by doing so. 6. Feedback. You need people to break your balls to provide constructive criticism. Learning to confront your fears is essential. Initially, your work might be average, but progress requires honest feedback, which should not be taken personally. When I encountered challenges in new song compositions, I sought my brother's input. I'd ask him to critically evaluate the work, pointing out flaws and strengths. This straightforward approach, like "this part is cool but repetitive" or "delete this, it's not working," provided invaluable insights for enhancing my creations. I applied a similar strategy when designing the cover for this book, seeking criticism from different people to gather diverse perspectives and ideas. Simply maintaining high standards is insufficient. True excellence comes from actively seeking criticism and being receptive to it, a practice that distinguishes the great from the merely good. 7. Create what you love. Motivation comes and goes, but if you're not making something you're interested in or love, then it's going to feel like a chore to work on your craft. When you do what you love, it feels like play instead of work. Even when you practice songs you love to hear. When creating music, my aim was always to compose something I personally enjoyed listening to, rather than catering to others' preferences. I strive to craft increasingly intricate and compelling songs with each attempt. This drive led me, at the age of 23, to compose the 33-minute song "To Kill a God," an epic exploration of the theme of the death of God. It was a musical journey that resonated with what I wanted to experience as a listener. Although it took a whole year to compose, the process ultimately transformed me into a more accomplished artist. Success to me isn't about popularity. It's about the unique challenges. Not everyone plays an instrument, not every musician creates original music, and not every artist can produce a 33-minute song. Exceptionalism in one's craft is how I measure success. If your heart's not in it, you'll fail. There are already enough restrictions in life. The arts are where you get to express yourself and do whatever you wish. You must be inspired and have techniques to incarnate your expressions and feelings to bring heaven down to earth. To know where you are evolving in skill is to be aware of your strengths. All the wisdom and advice I give you is obviously easier said than done. If you can practice this, you will be ahead of others. You'll be able to reach your full potential faster, instead of wandering around and waiting for solutions to appear out of thin air. How to train your brain to do hard things. Trick your brain into liking things you hate doing that benefit you. Stop generating motivation by thinking of an end goal, and instead, learn to enjoy the process. Why shouldn't you visualize an end goal? The main problem is the fact that there is a vast disparity between what it feels like to fantasize about the ultimate result and what the process feels like that you will undertake. There are entirely different sensations. Ideal images of yourself are always a moving target because an ideal cannot be achieved. It can only be approached. An ideal is a compass that leads to the correct direction. However, this is not an excuse to be cynical and destroy beauty ideals. You still need aspirations to drive your meaning forward. Stagnation breeds destruction. You must keep moving. You need to find love in the daily discipline and enjoy the present activity for itself. Doing this will generate dopamine because you're moving closer to your target. How do you enjoy and embrace difficult things? Choose to think abundantly, not with scarcity. Stephen Covey introduced the concepts of abundance and scarcity mindset in his book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Abundance means believing there's plenty for everyone and appreciating what you have. Scarcity is thinking resources are limited, leading to short-term solutions, jealousy, and stress. The scarcity mindset is pessimistic thinking. and it is comprised of the following. Focuses on limitations, leads to victim mentality, dwells on what's lacking, causes frustration, powerlessness, anxiety, anger, and fear, brings others down with a negative attitude, avoids collaboration and sharing credit, thinks small and avoids risks, struggles to trust, defaulting to suspicion, expects more from others, acting as a taker, establishes self-worth by comparing to others. In contrast, an abundance mindset is positive thinking that sees opportunities, takes control and responsibility, focuses on new possibilities, feels empowered and engaged, inspires and energizes others, collaborates and shares success, thinks big and embraces risks, leads with trust, focusing on relationships, acts as a giver, contributing to others' well-being, establishes self-worth by comparing to one's best self. For example, you are going to the gym to achieve a respectable physique and to stay healthy. You need to tell yourself that you go to the gym because you're active. It is part of your lifestyle because you care about your health. If you tell yourself that you need to read books or practice an instrument for the sake of being better, then it will feel like a chore. I became a multi-instrumentalist by playing an instrument, not working the instrument. I enjoyed what was considered practice because I saw it as playtime, not practice time. It was fun to see myself making mistakes and making progress. If you identify as someone learning an instrument to play along with your favorite songs, you will enjoy it and follow through with a proper routine. The next tip to trick yourself into doing hard things is to utilize habit bunching. Also termed habit chaining, the process involves stacking and linking new habits to things you already do automatically. It's easy and effective, making your routine memorable and seamlessly adding new behaviors to existing habits. I hated doing homework in college, but I loved listening to music. While doing schoolwork, I put my favorite heavy metal playlists on shuffle in the background. I had a routine. Right after coming home from school and having a meal, I'd head to my corner in the living room, crank up the music, and swiftly complete my homework. This way, I could spend any extra time composing my music. The mentality became, you don't get to play composer unless you're done playing student. Since it became a habit, doing homework had become more natural. Without struggle, I finished what needed to be done because my brain no longer saw it as a chore. However, this change does not happen overnight. You must be patient and turn it into a habit to later become a lifestyle. The task transformed into a source of enjoyment, shifting my focus away from the ultimate goal of obtaining a bachelor's degree. I adopted a comparable strategy at the gym, redirecting my attention from the music to the weights and endorphins that generate a positive sensation. When you fast forward months or even years practicing these habits, you will view it as a healthy lifestyle or play. This is how you successfully achieve your fitness goals and keep them till you die. Now, let's tie this concept to how to learn anything quickly by adding 5 different ideas or rules. Idea 1. Remember to focus on the 80-20th things. 20% of people equals 80% of your happiness. 20% of customers drive 80% of sales. 20% of methods lead to 80% of results. Idea 2. Use the time management method, the Pomodoro technique, in which you focus for 25 minutes and rest for 5 minutes. Shut off all external distractions and isolate yourself if you can. Idea 3 is to get enough sleep. It helps the brain store and process information better. Idea number 4. Practice and accomplish. The best way to learn is by getting your hands dirty, making mistakes, and learning from them. Watching and reading are not enough. Be both book smart and street smart. Finally, idea 5. Persist to the end. Individuals tend to give up and lack persistence for a few reasons: running out of time and money, succumbing to fear and lacking seriousness, or simply losing interest. Furthermore, Jordan Peterson advises us to structure our day in an orderly, disciplined manner, not to waste our time and our lives away. The question posed is, how many hours are wasted daily? Roughly 4 to 6 hours. Whether it's watching things mindlessly for entertainment or being inefficient, it adds up to 25 hours a week or 100 hours a month, equivalent to 2.5 work weeks. This totals to $24,000 a year, assuming a $20 hourly rate. For the younger generation, this impact is even more significant. The advice is clear: avoid wasting time and seize opportunities to become more efficient. Dr. Peterson emphasizes the importance of effective communication, thinking, and writing to avoid being dismantled in a debate. Creating and sticking to a schedule is crucial, striking a balance between responsibilities and rewards to make daily life more bearable. Consistent effort is like compound interest, so negotiate with yourself for a manageable routine. Taking responsibility for your actions is important, as what you do affects others. Living without a routine isn't healthy, and planning for the life you want involves acknowledging and handling responsibilities. Set goals, take care of yourself, and make intentional choices. Success doesn't just happen. You need to align your life with your goals, even if it means making sacrifices. Fixing daily mistakes is essential for self-improvement and achieving what you want. Life can be irritating and feel like a chore much of the time, but it doesn't have to. We only give it that negative connotation because of our negative attitudes. You must set goals daily, or you'll be wasting your life. Begin by writing and completing your to-do list, then reward yourself by doing something you enjoy. The school system has failed us in teaching us the importance of how to write, read, and think. You are conditioned to get good grades so you can go to a fancy school and get a job you hate. But sadly, your degree will not guarantee a job in your field of choice. You may even happen to work in the opposite field of your choice. However, at the end of the day, employers do not care about your fancy school. The A student ends up working for the C student. They care if you know how to think, write, and read. If you can think, write, and read, then you are powerful. No one will mess with you. You can defend yourself from your superiors. They know you will take action against them if you are not treated fairly at work. Most importantly, you create options for yourself rather than being stuck in a dead-end job for the rest of your life. You need to take responsibility for your actions in life, or you'll live as a child who never grew up. You can't live the rest of your life inside your parents' nest of income, food, comfort, and free rent. Build discipline, expose yourself voluntarily to the truth, bear responsibility, find a career, find a worthy partner, and set your goals straight to have the life you truly need and desire. A gem cannot be polished without friction.